Welcome to Levee. My name is Wesley McConnell, and we're down here on a farm. We're going to be talking about the highest and best use of property today. And in real estate, when you talk about the highest and best use, normally you're talking about having a convenience store on a busy corner of an intersection as opposed to having a residential, house there. But here at Whitetail Properties, whenever we talk about highest and best use, we're talking about, whitetails and waterfowl and other game animals. So on this part of the property, it's high. And it's got a reservoir right here. So this area is almost swampy-ish because it never had the right water depth in order to be productive for ducks. And the deer use it a little bit, but most of it has been taken over by an invasive species, water hyacinth. And there's been no way to actually maintain it and knock it back. So and the reason why is because there's an old levee system that goes around this side of the farm that the beavers have just basically destroyed. Right here, we've already repaired most of it, but right here's an area where this water will come up and it'll either seep through this levee where it's been worn down, or it'll sometimes on a big rain when they get the reservoir up to full height, it'll come over the top of this and continue to erode it. The levee was not built able to maintain, so we couldn't get a tractor on it, they couldn't mow it, they couldn't spray it to keep this invasive species out. So we're going to widen it up to prevent the seepage, and also so that we can get a tractor on it, we can mow it, we can spray this invasive species from the top of this levee to keep it pushed back. A couple things, after we get all the levees built up and maintained so we can maintain them properly, we still got to get water in here in the fall for the ducks. So we've considered a couple different water options. On a project like this where you don't just have a great water source that's 100% effective, multiple water sources are really an asset. So we talked about putting a lift station so we can lift water out of the reservoir and get it into here in the fall. We've also have some water wells down the edge of the property that we've talked about just installing some small piping to get the water into this area as well. And then we also can backflow some water in from the ditch. We've got some pipes to drain it, but when the water comes up, it'll push water back in here. So there's a couple different ways we can catch and add water to this area. You see, he's dumping a load of dirt right there, and we're just going to keep working that area all the way down through here and push this water out as we build the levee up. But after we get done, we're going to be able to put duck food plots in here, and some of those things may be milo, maybe corn, maybe rice, and we'll rotate those crops. Just depends on how high we can get this levee and how high we can get the water depth. We're going to have to come in here and clean this up a lot with a bulldozer and get some dirt pans on it and get it leveled out a little bit, so that as we down here in the south, you just about have to irrigate stuff, so we're going to make it so that if we really need to irrigate it, we can put a little bit of water on it even during the growing season, so that we can actually make a great duck crop. And look, we still have some big trees on this island here, and we're going to be able to put up some deer stands, and we've seen some slew-footed tracks coming across this levee, so I'm really excited to see what we can get done this year and hopefully be able to have this in production this fall.